At some point, I realized there was no amount of discipline, hustle, or waking up at 5 a.m. that was going to relieve me of the operational chaos that was happening in my real estate business. So instead of trying to work harder, I started building AI systems to remove me from the process. This video is for you if you feel like your business, your side hustle, or your career is becoming operationally impossible and you know that there's a smarter way to run things. Today, I'm going to walk you through the AI systems that are running in my property management business and how I built them. So, if you've seen any of my previous videos about me running 90 doors of real estate and it being an operational nightmare, then you know exactly why I started building systems. But if you're new here, some of the things that I experienced in the past were phone constantly ringing, team members needing approvals, repetitive tasks, repetitive button clicking, just operational chaos. And the only way I saw to be able to run the real estate business, my corporate job, everything else I have going on is to put AI in place. And so a lot of people are using AI, but there are different variations of that. Some people are using it as a Google search or just to answer questions or to look things up for them. But I'm using it to replace employees, to replace tasks, to literally take things off people's plates. And so some of the things that my AI systems are doing, they are making decisions based on things that happen repetitively. They are moving information around, keeping everybody informed, doing follow-ups, summaries, workflows, you name it. And so I took the time to summarize all of the AI systems that I have going on because they are across three different layers. Once I peeled back the onion and looked at everything, I'm like, how would I explain this to somebody? So, how I got to three different layers is I started using Zapier several years ago when I was a career coach. I started trying to automate the processes, for my side hustle. So, when I realized I needed to put some automation in place for the real estate business, Zapier is the first place I went. And if you don't know what Zapier is a automation tool. It's really good for beginners. Like if you don't have an engineering background, if you don't have any experience doing automation or setting up operations, Zapier is a great place to start. So I mentioned that I have three different layers of AI and automation going on here. So the first layer is Zapier, and the purpose of those is just to move data. It's basically a runner. So it's taking information from one system and transporting it to somewhere else. And so all day long, these are happening in the background. And I will go through each of these in more in depth, but I want you to see the summary, the big picture of kind of how things are laid out. So I have my layer one is basically just moving things around. And then I have layer two because Zapier, when AI started to really pick up speed, Zapier started implementing AI agents native to the platform. And so, since some of my data is already there, I started using the Zapier AI agents. And then over time, I actually started to move into phase three, once because Zapier is a SaaS company, so they charge you for usage and you have only a certain amount of credits. And so once my agent started to do have so many tasks that I was running out of Zapier credits, that's when I started moving into layer number three, which was building my own agents. And these agents sit on a Mac Mini that I have here sitting on my desk. And the great thing about the Mac Mini agents, they are literally employees. So they each have their own job that they execute. So that's kind of the difference. Since I have the Mac Mini agents now acting as employees, the Zapier AI agents, they do some low level summarization, working with some things that are already in Zapier, stuff that's still needed, basically stuff I could move over to the Mac Mini agent. But Zapier has a really cool feature with the Zapier AI agents. I think you get 400 tasks for free. And so some of these things I've just left there because they're running for free. I might as well leave them there. So that's kind of where my automation is scattered and how it's working. All of the systems are basically interconnected in one way or another. When I said layer one, it's basically just moving things around. Here's the summary of that. Like the big picture is doing four major things. So for the leasing and resident life cycle, these are my tenants who are already in the building. I do have a separate leasing agent for potential tenants. But for my tenants that are already in the building, I'm doing when their lease renewals, I'm doing any forms that need to be signed, move out surveys, renewal survey, any ongoing repetitive things that need to happen within the process of having a tenant in my building. I have Zapier monitoring my property management software and then firing off and doing things. Now, I know a question you may have. Could my property management software do these things? Some of it. So I'm using Door Loop for property management software. And what I dislike about any property management software is it needs you to be in the system to be effective. And so I need to go in the system and look at what leases are coming due and then click buttons. And then I need to go into the system and see which leases need to be sent out and click buttons. I prefer a more reactive approach. I don't want to have to go to the system to do anything. I want things to come to me or to my team and they just take care of them. So one of the zaps that is running for my current tenants is that 60 days out from when their lease is about to expire, I have a move out survey or renewal survey sent to them so that I can kind of understand what are they thinking before I just blatantly send them, a renewal offer. So I've inserted some steps into the process that are not in my property management software. So I have the survey going. I get the results of their survey, which kind of helps me figure out what should I offer them in their lease renewal? What are they concerned about? Are there any maintenance concerns that they have that I need to get fixed before they get the renewal packet? So that's one example of the leasing and resident life cycle. For maintenance operations, I have a Zap that's monitoring my property management software every time tenants enter a work order. So every time they enter a work order, Zapier moves the work order into Airtable, which is where I'm storing everything. And then it can either automatically approve them based on rules that I've set up, or it can put them on hold and send me or the team member a notification that we need to make a decision about these things. Again, something my property management software cannot do. It does not automatically approve work orders. They have to sit there and wait for somebody to come click buttons. The third category of zaps that I have in place are data capture and intake. So one big thing I mentioned before is that we don't have anybody answering the phones. So I am using Google Voice as my front door for phone calls and text messages from tenants, from potential tenants, from vendors, from everybody. They have this Google Voice phone number, and Google Voice sends every communication to email. So I have this Zap sitting there watching the email, and then it's sending us a summary every 24 hours. My promise to everyone is that you will hear from us within 24 to 48 hours. And this system is what allows us to do that. No one has to sit by the phone waiting for anything to happen, waiting for information. We get an email every day with what happened with the phones. And then that allows us to respond to things at our leisure. It also allows us to sort out what actually doesn't need to be responded to at all. So that's another Zap we have in place. And then the fourth Zap is for financial oversight. So I also have Zapier watching the property management software for any new expenses that come in and then logging those expenses so that my financial agent can do what it needs to do with them so that I can compare it against budgets. That's another thing I don't like about property management software. And I'm probably not using it as intended. Property management software is literally set up for property managers who do not have ownership in the property, because a lot of the business management, the owner management piece of it, it's just simply not built into that software. So I've had to build these things around the property management software because I have financial ownership. And so I'm looking at what are the expenses versus what is the budget that I have set up for this property every month. The property management software is not concerned with that, but I am. So I have that, my expenses automatically being logged. And so I have a dashboard where I can go see everything versus having to go into the property management software and either run a report to see everything that's happened or look at expenses one by one. Don't have time for that. So these four categories make up about 11 different automations that are running 24/7, things I don't even think about anymore. And this is just the beginning. So this is moving the data around. Once the data exists somewhere outside of my property management software, because that's where I can manipulate them, I can send summaries, I can do all sorts of things. The second layer that I have set up are Zapier agents, and I mentioned that I just use that because it's available. It's free. So basically, taking some of the data that's already there and doing something with it. So I mentioned that nobody answers the phone. So if you look at the Google Voice summary here on the right, I get a summary of everything that happened that day on the phone, text messages and phone calls. So I don't need to go outside of Zapier since it already has the information. So it's doing a summary of that. Another thing that we implemented is that the people on my team do not take physical notes. Everything is done via voice note, via ChatGPT. So all day they're talking to ChatGPT, and at the end of the day, ChatGPT creates a summary of what happened that day for them. And I mean, it's like things they need to remember, people they need to contact, a task they need to complete, what they got completed that day. Everything there is going into ChatGPT, and then we get a daily summary of that. So they get a summary, and then once a week, we get a full summary of everything that's happened, high level, what needs leadership, a review, anything that needs support beyond their personal tasks. So I have a Zapier agent that's sending those summaries as well. And then we have the weekly work order digest. I mentioned that I have a Zap that's automatically approving or putting things on hold, and so this is just a report of what that Zap did. So you can see these are low level, very easy, just summaries of things. And so I don't have to ask people for updates and I don't have to go into systems looking to see what happened. So that's the role that these play. And most of these send a daily email. So I do have a lot of daily emails to review. But if you're feeling fancy, you can always put an agent in who's sending you a summary of everything. And so here is the most valuable level, I would say, because I have actually used this to replace employees. If you don't have a technical background and you don't know how to get started with agents, it's actually much easier than you think. What I do is I go to ChatGPT and I say, here's the process for my leasing agent. Help me automate it. ChatGPT will give you the entire rundown of the strategy, what you need to put in place, the systems, everything. And then I take that summary of what I want to do and I go over to Claude Code and I say, build this. It is literally that simple. So, and I know I'm going through a lot of detail here. If you have questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. I will answer as much as I can. So let's get into these employees. So there is a leasing agent, and that is when I have apartments available to rent. I only use Zillow for listing because it pushes it out everywhere. And I have a leasing agent that's working directly with Zillow. So if someone wants to see an apartment, if someone submits an application, if someone asks a question, my agent is actually answering and moving this person along. What I love so much is that the agent is polling every 60 seconds. So when somebody sends a message and says, "Hey, I want to see an apartment, I'm interested." Within 60 seconds they have a response, they have a link where they can schedule their showing, and that would have never happened with me doing it because I'm moving about my day. I may come check email and I have 30 messages to respond to, and I have to click, 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 respond to each of them one by one, copy, paste, copy, paste. Well, now my agent does all that for me. And it's the time lag doesn't exist anymore. I would usually check it, once or twice a day if I was lucky. But now the agent is always there. And I love it because if somebody's interested in an apartment, they get a response in 60 seconds. Like it just helps the whole thing move so much faster. So this is probably my must have. Like, because I can have anywhere from, 3 to 5 vacancies at a time that I'm trying to fill. And so it could become a nightmare trying to respond to 50 leads a day. So this agent is, because I've actually paid somebody to do that before. So this actually replaced a full person, and it walks them through the entire process. I created a video about it actually. So if you want to know about the leasing agent specifically, that video is on my channel. The second employee that I have created is my admin agent. And so my admin agent basically sits in, listens to all the voice notes, and actually does things that need to happen. So if someone says, I need to close a work order, I need to create a work order, I need to flag an expense, like any of those things that my system is already doing, right? I'm already telling work orders what to do. The admin agent can go ahead and do it. So my maintenance manager does not have to come home at the end of the day and create 56 work orders. No, she puts it in her field note and then the agent goes and takes care of that. So anything that's just administrative, like updating something, anything that doesn't require thought, it's just a button click. The admin agent is doing that. It saves everybody a lot of time and energy, and it allows my people to focus on decisions and human aspects of their job. So the admin agent is great as well. Thirdly, I have a budget agent. I talked about how I have a Zap that's watching all of my expenses as they come in. The budget agent is the one who's actually running it against the analysis. Jerry, you said you were going to spend 20,000 on this building total this year. You're already at 17. We need to review the next expenses that come in, or we need to closely review work orders, things that's going on at that building, et cetera, et cetera. So it's helping me make the financial decisions on the front end versus what used to happen is as I'm closing the books, I'm seeing what happened in retroactively, and it doesn't really give me the opportunity to make decisions. And that's similar to what I was saying about when I had a property manager and they just tell you at the end of the month what happened. And so I put this in place so I would know as things are happening and I can shift my strategy. I can, make different decisions based on the financial standing today. So I have a person doing that. I have an AI person doing that. And then my final AI agent that I set up, because I also mentioned that nobody's answering the phones. Well, we obviously missed some emergencies. And that's the thing with AI and automation. You put it in, there's a test case you don't think about, and then you build for it on the back end. So that's what happened with this, because nobody's answering the phones and we only get a notification every 24 hours. Sometimes things happen that can't wait 24 hours and somebody needs to know about it immediately. And so I have my emergency agent sitting there watching the Google Voice call logs, and it has certain rules based on, emergency like terms, different things that people say. It sends a text message and it sends emails to the people on the ground who can do something about it. And so that's how I put it. That's how I get around not having a live person on the phone, not having anyone monitor the phone. If something really needs our attention, we will know about it immediately. And I like that because we are able to filter what requires immediate notification and what actually should get our attention, in the moment and take us away from whatever we're doing for that day. So the point here is really, how do you leverage your time? How do you run something that's bigger than you when you only have 24 hours in a day? And the only way you do that is to reduce the dependency on yourself, protect your mental energy, and focusing on things that require judgment. And so AI has been a lifesaver for me in that regard because it literally allows me to be in more than one place at a time. I remember probably about a year ago, I was watching a YouTube video and they were showing just how their team was set up and how they had all these AI employees. And I was like, I got to get there because this business has a lot of moving parts and I can't afford to pay people to do all these things. And it's not even efficient having humans do all these things. So that was the light bulb moment for me. And I hope that I can be the light bulb moment for some of you to even automate just one task, just one job, just one role to get it off of your back so that you can focus on whatever you want to focus on. Be it if it's spending time with family, vacation, working other jobs, building other side hustles, recording for YouTube, whatever. I hope I've served as a motivation for you to start working on something. My name is Jerry, and if you're still here, do me a favor, go ahead and give that like button a smash. Keep building that confidence and keep building that cash. I make videos for ambitious people who want to build life on their terms. And if you want to get a behind the scenes look on my business, you can find me over on Substack at Confidence is Cash. And if you want to see more about how I'm using AI to do all of the things, you can find that here on YouTube at the Prompt Life Podcast. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.